Ang pinakapunto ng aming statement is that we will keep encouraging the church to be more positively involved in politics, in what Pope Francis calls the politics of the common good, na binanggit sa simula ng sulat. Kasi may tendency tayo na iugnay ang politika sa bad politics of patronage, dynasties, and corruption. Well, while we value the kind of political involvement ng PPCRV volunteers sa simbahan, now we are proactively, let me insist on that, proactively encouraging the rest of the church to get more involved in empowering the voters to choose the right candidates through collective discernment and consensus building that will hopefully lead to supporting or helping particular candidates to win. Ibig sabihin, yung talagang kumakatawan sa mga prinsipyo at mga pagpapahalaga or values na nakapaloob sa gospel at sa Catholic social teachings. And proud kami sa mga example ng maraming Catholic groups that have gone through a similar process and have come up with a collective principled stand. For example, sigurado ako narinig na ninyo ang Couples for Christ. They came up with a collective principled stand. Ang Ligaya ng Panginoon, ang Sangguniang Laiko, etc. And we also value the statements released by the Catholic Educational Association of the Philippines, by some universities, academic communities, business people, etc. And we would refer you also to the recently released statements of the La Salle brothers and the Jesuits. We cannot name all of them, by the way, no? Si Father Jun Biray, who is now the provincial of the Jesuits, mentioned something very important. Ang sabi niya, discernment is more often a choice, not between good and evil, but good and better. And of course, the point precisely is that evil has a way of deceiving us into choosing as better what is really inferior or even worse. Kaya talagang ultimately, it's really a choice between good and evil. Now, bilang Conference of Bishops, you will keep hearing us giving a moral and spiritual guidance for greater involvement in the politics of the common good, and encouraging our laity to be the frontliners in working for a more just society. Of course, priests and religious and individual church leaders have their own individual discernment. Binanggit din ito ni Father Jun Biray sa statement ng mga Jesuits. Sabi ni Father Jun Biray, some of their own priests have arrived at a decision and have expressed their preferences. Ang sabi niya, we should respect their prerogative to express their civic duty, which is protected by the Constitution. But as a conference, like I said, as a collective entity, you will not hear us endorsing names. We will stick to our role of promoting good politics through spiritual and moral guidance. When our members in the church are able to reach the proper names, through this procedure of discernment and consensus building, I'd say we are proud of them. Maraming mga tao hindi nila naiintindihan na itong constitutional provision na ito is more directed to the state than to the church. That the real point in that provision is the state has no business putting up a religion or favoring one religion against another, because the state is a protector of the religious freedom of our people. Ang bawal lang talaga sa clergy ay ang tumakbo o kumandidato para sa positions, electoral positions, at maging part ng mga political parties. But do not forget, all the members of the church are also citizens of this country, and they also have the civic duty to proactively participate in nation building, and part of nation building is participation in coming up with a politics that favors the common good. Directed dito sa state. The state has no business putting up a religion or favoring one religion against another. Well, on the other hand, you can also say the church has no business putting up a state. Yun ang aming pangunahing trabaho. We are spiritual and moral leaders. But we are also citizens of this country and as members of the church, we must be proactively involved in the political life of society as citizens. Yeah. Definitely, we have been involved in politics because we are citizens of this country. But our involvement as CBCP is always in the context of moral and spiritual guidance. And you should read our pastoral statement dated February 13, 1986, to know in what way we got involved in that particular issue, which actually brought an end to the dictatorship. It was not the church that did it, it was the people. That is why we call it a people power, but the church was present there with the people when they decided once and for all, never again. No, talagang na matapos na yung bangungot ng dictatorship, you know. And it was one of the most shining moments in the history of the Philippines. With regard to your second question, kung what motivates our decision with regard to particular candidates, well, I think it is obvious from our tone that we do not want the dark age of martial law repeated. And that time that really devastated the economy of our country, because people have no business saying that that was a golden age. That is a lie. And ang pinaninindigan lang natin dito, katotohanan. Kung sa palagay nila ay yun ay nagdaan ng proper collective discernment at consensus building, guided by the gospel and the social teachings of the church and an objective understanding of what happened in history. Kasi nga, ang pinaninindigan natin katotohanan because our fear is that in the age of social media, nababaluktot talaga yung katotohanan. And we do not want it to happen, that our people are deceived. Alam nyo, di ba? Do you remember in the gospel, there was a choice between between Jesus and Barabbas? Obvious naman who represented the truth. And even Pontius Pilate, alam niya, wala namang kasalanan si Jesus, you know? Pero people favored Barabbas because alam niyo naman, may mga puwersa na bulong-bulong lang, they were able to deceive the majority to really prefer si Barabbas. No? Kaya we do not want that to happen kasi kaya sinasabi natin, the truth will set you free. And for us, Jesus is that truth. No? A choice for the truth is a choice for Jesus. So kung sila ay tinamaan, baka totoo. No? Because ang pinatatamaan lang naman natin dito, ang tinutumbok talaga natin ay yung totoong nangyari. Huwag lang nating babaluktutin yung totoong nangyari. At yun, pinanawagan natin sa ating mga taong bayan. Panindigan naman natin. Panindigan naman natin ang totoo. Labanan naman natin yung nagsasabi ng hindi totoo. At kung malinaw sa inyo kung sino ang hindi nagsasabi ng totoo, di wag iboto yun. Ang iboto natin, yung pumapanig talaga doon sa totoo.
Thank you.
Actually, kahit naman sinong Pilipino pwedeng mag-endorso ng kanilang kandidato. And meron lang mas respectful at hindi ganyan ka-respectful na pag-endorso ng kandidato. No? Yung tinutukoy natin na pagsasaayos ng lipunan, pangungobyerno. Hindi namin gagawin yung kami ang mangungobyerno. Hindi kami Taliban. Alam mo yung, di ba, yung there are some countries where the religious leaders, you know, become president, they become the government, and yung kanilang fanatical na interpretation of religion is turned into politics. We will never do that, no, because that is religious fanaticism. We will stick to our role as spiritual and moral leaders, but we will proactively participate in the political life of our country. Nakapagbigay na ng linaw si Bishop Ted Bacani as spiritual director nung particular charismatic group na yon, na, well, yung lay leader na nagbigay ng kanyang public endorsement, personal niya na endorsement yon. And like I said, every one of us has that prerogative to come up with that personal endorsement. It is our civic duty. Kaya lang, meron tayong moral imperative as Christians na sumunod, sa ebanghelyo, sa mga prinsipyo, sa mga pagpapahalaga ng katotohanan, kalayaan at katarungan. No? So, it is in that light na parate, alam nyo yung sinasabi namin, don't ask us to decide for you. We won't decide for you. But we will guide you to a conscience-based decision, a well-informed decision. Well, we will not stop celebrating. Bakit? Ba't tayo hihinto sa pagdiriwang ng isang makasaysayang pangyayari sa ating bayan o sa ating bansa? Because the EDSA, People Power Revolution, represents a value. We value democracy. We value freedom. And we should not forget that shining moment sa ating history na in a peaceful means, no? In a peaceful way. Kasi nung panahon na yon, muntik na talagang umagos ang dugo. Can you imagine, no? Ang lumulusob na ang military forces ng dictatorship para labanan itong attempted coup ng mga military rebels. At noon pumagitna ang mga taong bayan. Nagdala ng mga pagkain, inumin, bulaklak, ganon. Hindi sila natakot na sila'y barilin. And they were able to stop the guns from firing, and nanalo ang peaceful means of restoring democracy. I think you should be proud of that moment, no? So we will never, never forget. Sabi nga namin, may sari-sariling conscience yung bawat church leader, no? But as a body, you will expect us to stick to our role. Our role is really to give spiritual and moral guidance through collective discernment. At hindi naman sa mga homilies lang ginagawa yon. Maraming mga formation sessions sa loob ng simbahan na pwedeng maging venues for discussions. Ang importante is that we become facilitators of good conversation. Yun yung pakunti ng pakunti Lahat iniiwan natin sa social media pero walang nagaganap na conversation. Informed, intelligent, and level-headed na conversation where people do not prejudge one another. Yung marunong tayong makinig sa sinasabi ng isa't isa kahit dun sa sinasabi ng hindi pabor sa atin na kahit yung mga may sarili ng ibang preferences na hindi natin pinapanigan. Siguro magandang ang approach ay bakit? Bakit siya? Bakit hindi ganito? Ano ang dahilan? I think that conversation, yun yung mas promising that can lead to truth. Kasi we're discerning nga because napaka-toxic ng atmosphere sa social media. Yun yung inulit-ulit namin dyan sa pastoral statement na ito, no? Very toxic. There is so much bullying and hate messages and fake news and revisionism. Ay nako, there is nothing that will replace actual person-to-person conversations, being able to dialogue level-headedly, listen to one another, and together journey towards the truth. Sabi ko nga, we are citizens of this country. Meron din tayong civic duty. We will just presuppose na kung humantong sa ganyan yung ibang mga kaparian, ibig sabihin, they have reached a decision in conscience. And that is to be respected. But always, lagi naming pinupunto, ang pulpito ay hindi gagamitin sa politika. Ang pulpito ay lagi para lamang sa pagpapahayag ng mabuting balita. But syempre, pag pinahayag mo ang mabuting balita, may implications siya tungkol sa political life. We cannot separate faith and our societal life, no? Kaya pero yung wag gagamitin yung pulpito sa pangangampanya na nasabi na ng ibang mga obispo, that has a point. We have to be more respectful kasi ang dami namang venues Ang daming venues for, expressing one's political opinion. But in the pulpit, ang nangunguna ay ang salita ng Diyos. At ano ang implication ng panindigan ang katotohanan, katarungan, at kapayapaan. Mahirap sumagot ng very hypothetical question. My only answer to that is, I think, ang taong bayan ang sasagot ng question na yan. And on the side of the church, we will cross the bridge when we get there.